It's our First NBC weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank with locations throughout the greater New Orleans area. Our thanks to First NBC Bank for their support of SportsNoah.com. Ken Trahan with prep analyst Rick Gallie, NFL analyst, college analyst, you name it. He's going to analyze something, pretty much everything here today. Rick, we've just concluded here at the Airport Hilton with the regional meeting, the area meeting of the LHSAA principals and coaches and athletic directors regarding many proposals. But obviously all that everyone is talking about is Proposition 18. You coached everywhere, public, private, for many, many years. You have a unique perspective about this. From the standpoint of as it exists today and the proposal the way it is this a good proposal or a bad proposal?
It all depends on how you're looking at it and what part of the state you're in. The way that we view it here in New Orleans, I've come to find out, because right now I'm still in the research and development phase. I'm trying to find out and become versed in the arguments on both sides of the equation so that eventually I can make an intelligent decision. But the way that we see things here in New Orleans about the relationship between public and private, let's keep the terminology simple, is much closer than in the rest of the state. And we're much more dependent on each other here in the southeast Louisiana area than the rest of the state. In this area, really, the public schools depend on the relationship with the private schools in order to be profitable. In the rest of the state, that's not the case. In this area, it would not be difficult for the private schools to get a full schedule put together, and in the rest of the state, it would be impossible for that to happen. So the way that our paradigm in this whole equation is much different depending on what part of the state you're in. In just discussing it with the people that I have so far, I think in New Orleans, it's about 50-50, which direction that they're going to go in. But I really think in the rest of the state, they're much more leaning toward the separation issue. The separation issue, in effect, comes down to two different questions or statements. One of them is there's a lot of schools that are tired out of being told, hey, thanks for coming, here's some lovely parting gifts, now take your butt kicking and go home. And the other thing is, okay, privates, you've given us Curtis, you've given us Evangel, now in the playoffs, y'all deal with them. And as we're finding out, private schools don't want to deal with them either, because now they're talking about going to 3 divisions for the playoffs. That was just one of the considerations.
And look, those two schools, for better or for worse, and we're not advocating for them or against them. In fact, I have great relationships on both sides, and I think the world of both sides, and I admire them both for what they've accomplished. The bottom line is, if you play by the rules and you succeed, God bless them. And if they haven't played by the rules, and why hasn't anything happened over a long period of time? But you're right. This is truly about them and people that don't want to compete with them.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. And we've shown as an association, but especially in the private school area, that we're not going to police each other, because that's where the enforcement comes down. It's not so much the LHSAA just flying in and going through all types of investigations. There's got to be some policing within the schools, and we've shown that we're not very good at that.
So your feeling is this will likely pass for football?
That's the feeling that I have right now. I think it was Proposal 8 that's iffy because it encompasses every sport that's there. And I know Mr. Ramsey, and I know he was very thorough in preparing that and having it amended. I'm not very sure about that, but I think in discussing it throughout the state that there is probably more of a leaning toward passing it than not.
Yeah, 3A schools should not be competing with 5A schools for football championships.
Oh, I can't. You don't have to convert me to that one. I'm absolutely there with you, because I've competed at every level from 2A to 5A, and yes, there's a significant difference between those size schools.
Okay, NFL championship games this weekend. AFC, Patriots at home against the Ravens. Why do I get the feeling the Ravens are a team of destiny?
It certainly seems that way, and we usually have one every year, a team that plays over their head, so to speak, or gets on a roll. And certainly the Ravens right now are on a roll. Joe Flacco is playing very well. Certainly they've been inspired by Ray Lewis and his last rodeo, so to speak. his last ride. So they certainly feel good about their position. They're playing a team that they sincerely believe that they can beat in the postseason. They felt they had them beat last year and were 2 seconds away from having that done. So it's going to be much more of a battle than the point spread right now would indicate.
And they beat them during the regular season this year.
That's correct. After an emotional circumstance leading into that week, so they know how to play emotionally. They're playing very well. They know how to play in Gillette Stadium, which is at least half of the battle. So the Ravens very well could be that team of destiny, so to speak, and Joe Flacco could be the Eli Manning of the playoffs.
And on the other side, in the NFC, Atlanta getting no respect. I think 4.5 is the last time I looked at it. They're underdogs at home to San Francisco. Kaepernick was lights out last week. Is this a rallying cry for the Falcons? Can they win?
Oh, absolutely, because as fans, we get to be prisoners of the moment. And after looking at San Francisco last week against Green Bay and studying the coaches' tape that I had a chance to look at, it was no contest. San Francisco just played extraordinarily well, whereas just a couple of weeks before that, after they had played Seattle, we could see all kinds of reasons for Atlanta to win. Now, Atlanta hasn't got any respect throughout the whole year, but guess what? You win the NFC South, even with the difficulties that we had in that particular division. You're well equipped to be able to go through the playoffs. What concerns me about Atlanta is their discipline defensively. Last week, for most of the first half, they were very disciplined and really had a great balance in their pass coverage, pass rush, and defending the Reed Series plays. In the second half, they really started losing their discipline. And if you lose that discipline against San Francisco, you're in deep trouble because one thing, they can block you.
No doubt. All right, so we conclude here. And the winners are, I've gone back and forth on this over and over again, but ultimately, even though I think the Ravens are a team of destiny, I'm still going to give an edge to New England at home slightly, and I'm going to give an edge to San Francisco on the road. So I like the Patriots and Niners.
I could certainly see how you do that, so to do something different, but I also believe in destiny. I'll go with the Ravens, but I think it's going to be very difficult for Atlanta, so San Francisco should win that. And I would not mind seeing a Harbaugh Super Bowl and make Jack Harbaugh not only the proudest papa on the planet, who still reviews game film every week, by the way, but also make him the most nervous person on the planet as well. Let's make those parents itch.
There you go. Rick, as always, thank you. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ken. It will be a great weekend.
All right, for Rick Gallie, I'm Ken Trahan. This has been our First NBC Weekend Preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank with locations throughout the greater New Orleans area. Have a great weekend. God bless you. See you next week.